Welcome to the Players Ball Podcast for AT Aliens by AT Aliens. Number one sport podcast in Stankonia. I'm your host, Alex the Great. I'm joined by my co-host MB. A lot to talk about. This is an important week for an organization that we love. Um, but we won't start there, right? Let's start with how your week's going, man.
Week's going pretty good. So far the Braves are undefeated this week,
Oh
so
yeah.
can't complain there.
They've had some shutout wins too, which is nice, right? Not the 10 to 11 wins that we were having in the first couple of weeks of the season. So yeah, that's been nice. The pitching has improved. Let's start there, man. I think last night was a feat that I hadn't seen out of old Max Fried in a long time, and I'm glad that he's coming into form. It really brings. I was still optimistic about the season, right? But I was really scared. Um, I was uncertain of what we would do after losing Spencer Strider, especially with Max Fried starting the way he did. He was struggling. And then last night he goes complete game, shutout, 6 Ks. I
Under
think it was like
100 pitches. I think it was
under
like
100, 3 hits.
92 pitches.
hmm He talked to him after the game. He's like, what were you doing?" He's like, "Yeah, just trying to get ground outs, and just getting back to my stuff, feeling more like myself." So that was super encouraging, man. Uh, it was nice to not have to see the relievers come in too. So
Yeah, and that comes off the heels of Bryce Elder making his debut for the big club, and
hmm
he pitched. I don't remember exactly, but it was at least 6 and 2/3 innings.
hmm
I didn't see the first inning, unfortunately, but apparently the Marlins helped us out with some
some
base
errors.
running gaffes
hmm
that got him out of some early trouble, and he just started cooking from there. And they were very complimentary of the in-game adjustments he and Travis d'Arnaud made.
Yeah.
And man, when I was watching it, his stuff was lights out. So that's good to see. We'll see if he stays up. They kind of have that revolving door right now for that
hmm
extra rotation spot. I thought Darius Vines had done a admirable job in his start.
Yeah.
The only real bad one was Alan Winans, and everyone's gonna have a bad start from time to time. So we'll see how that progresses, but it was definitely good to see some good pitching outings for this team. We had another one tonight out of Ronaldo Lopez. I think
Who is? I mean, he's the best pitcher that we have right now by performance wise, right?
by consistency, yes, I'll give him
He's been
that.
killing it.
Yeah. But yeah, Max going a complete game. That's just not something you see in today's game anymore. It's his third of his career. But it's just so uncommon today with the velocity that pitchers are pitching with. Most guys are lucky to go 5 1/3 or 5 2/3. Um, yeah, I mean the guy for the Marlins tonight, I believe it was Sixto was it Sixto Sanchez that pitched tonight or last night? I think it was tonight. But
hmm
he had 21 pitches with one out and two on in the first inning. So uh,
Yeah.
you see those pitch counts get up there, and the starters get chased pretty early in today's game. So it was good to see Max get that one. I'm sure it's a good confidence boost for him with the way he had started the season. So it's
hmm
just nice. We need to keep that ball rolling and keep cooking. We've been winning, and that's the most important thing. But it's nice when you can win defensively as well. Not rely on those big bats that we have.
Right. And big bats we do have, right? We know that Marcell Ozuna has been on a tear, but Travis d'Arnaud joined him. He had like 6 home runs in the series, or maybe it was 5 in 3 games, which is just nuts, man. So to know that someone who's not even an everyday starter, I know he is now because of an injury, but Travis d'Arnaud splits time at catcher.
He's still
Um,
splitting time. He didn't start tonight. It went to Chadwick Tromp. So
Mm.
he is
But for
getting
him to
more
be able to
run.
turn it on like that is crazy, right? To know that we just had that kind of just waiting in the wings.
Yeah, you go from a guy who's like every fifth day you get a start to every fifth day getting a day off. It's a big
Hmm.
difference. Yeah, it's amazing. Our bats, as you know, as big as Travis has been lately, and Marcel for the entirety of the season. Uh, Matt Olson just broke a 27 at bat hitless streak. It was
Right.
the longest of his career. Um, Austin Riley really hasn't gotten cooking yet. Um, Ronald Acuna still only got one
I
bomb
was gonna
now.
say, yeah, he's
He's
gotten
get
on base, but he hasn't been putting them out the park like he's accustomed to doing.
Yeah, so for all intents and purposes, like we have yet to see what this team is really capable of, and the fact that we are leading the league in wins. I think we're 2 games up on the Phillies. It might be three after today. I don't know what they did today.
Mm,
But the fact that we're able to accomplish all that and our our bats really haven't been there consistently. We're not getting the production out of some of the guys that we're used to getting production out of, and our rotation has been kind of spotty. So it just speaks volumes about how good this team really is.
yeah, the best is yet to come, type situation.
Absolutely.
And the Phillies staying in there like they are, right? We took that series, the first series, 2 out of 3. And yeah, I don't know what it is today. I don't know what they did, but yeah, 2 games as of yesterday, they were back. Um, we had talked about whether we want to win the division. Obviously, we want to win the division, but I wouldn't be mad if they took that first spot and we came in, on a heater after beating the brakes off somebody.
Yeah. So
Super early for that, but
the Phillies are down 6-4 in the middle of the eighth right now, and the Braves are in the ninth, up 3-1. So need to go ahead and close out the Marlins with the sweep. They are the dumpster of baseball right now. So
yeah, I told you it's gonna be a couple teams. They're definitely on that list that are willing to sell early, right? I know they have. I don't remember who their ace is offhand, but they can just start to part with pieces.
well,
they suck.
Sandy Alcantara is their ace, but he's
I
out
thought he was with the
hurt.
Rays.
Mm.
No, he's with the
Uh,
Marlins.
yeah, he's just hurt. And the next guy up is Luzardo, I believe. Jesus
Mm,
Luzardo, maybe. Um, but we've, beat the brakes off of him this year. Blake Snell is another one. Previous, Cy Young winner candidate. Um, who went on the injured list. I think it was today or yesterday. So, I mean,
mm,
we're not kidding when we say that there is a pandemic of injuries, uh,
yeah.
plaguing pitchers. Good news is, Ozzy's little IL stint is almost up, and they're
Hmm.
saying he's on track to start potentially on Friday, which would be the earliest he could return. So
Yeah.
good to see that.
Yeah. Another bet, and I'm sure he's still in the clubhouse, but he's definitely, from what I've heard, is one of the leaders for the other Braves. So it'd be good to have him back on the field and at the plate.
Yeah, I mean, defensive wise, I've been pretty impressed with the guys that have stepped in his absence. But
Hmm.
Ozzy's bat is it was cooking this year so far. So
Yeah.
we need
Yeah,
it.
he was a big reason for some of those runs for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
All
you
right,
ready?
man. Well, the meal du jour. Let's jump on into those Falcons, man. Rise up. I'm gonna borrow from Shaq with the Hawks. Oh man! So they hit our guys. They're looking to do a tampering charge because Kirk Cousins is just blabbing off at the mouth about all the people, and it's out of a positive light, right? He was just really encouraged by the people that he met within the organization. But during the legal tampering period, you are not allowed to have direct contact with people in the organization. So now they're talking about docking us draft picks. We do know now. I saw an article today that won't be from this year. There was some concern that they were trying to get it done super early and take some picks this year. Like what kind of trash is that? Right? No one else has had to face these or not allegations, these punishments in such quick succession from the discovery of the issue. Right. So I'm glad they're not taking them this year, but we are probably going to lose some draft pick next year. So have you seen what draft picks or I haven't seen any news about what level of violation. They just talked about the previous ones, right? With the Dolphins, they lost first round picks, but they had a more egregious tampering situation in contacting Drew Brees, not Drew Brees, Tom Brady and Sean Payton during the season, right? They had all that Brian Flores stuff going on. So I don't think this rises to the level of a first round pick, but I'll be curious to see what you think.
Yeah. So from what I understand, uh, the allegations. I mean, we're guilty, right?
Yeah.
Um, he talked to a trainer,
Hmm.
after they had, I guess, come to an agreement on contract. So the deal was basically already signed in perpetuity, but
Mm.
the rules are what the rules are, and it got out, and now we got to deal with whatever the NFL makes up, as a punishment, because you know how the NFL likes to make it up as they go, which
Yeah.
is absolutely ridiculous. Um, I've seen reports that they want. I don't want to say they want to make an example out of the
Send a
Falcons,
message to the league.
but supposedly the punishment is going to be on the more severe side.
Mm.
History says, a similar incident should cost us like a sixth and maybe like a fourth. Um, but like I said, the NFL makes it up as they go. So who knows? They could try to do something silly and take a first or a second or multiple. Who knows? All I know is it better be worth it.
Yeah.
That's just kind of the way I'm looking at it right now. Is if we're gonna give up multiple draft picks or a draft pick plus the $100+ million,
80.
yeah, whatever,
180. That's the number.
yeah, whatever.
Closer to two is what I'm getting at.
I don't think he'll ever see that other 80, so we'll see. Um, but if we're gonna give him all that, like he better perform. I was weary. You were weary of this decision,
Hmm.
and I really don't think it's a good look on the organization to be kind of in the news right now, and not in a good light, right?
We're never in a good light. I've said it once. I'll say it again. Like the media, the national media, just hates Atlanta sports. Um, Real quick anecdote about the Braves. I didn't get to watch the Sunday night game, but it was on ESPN and they were showing like the battery. And on 92.9 The Game, they were talking about just how they were like, Atlanta's such a sexy baseball city. Um, did you happen to catch that game?
No, and that's not the direction that I thought you were going, man. I thought you were going to bring up the fact that Sunday night Kirk Cousin threw out the opening
Yeah.
pitch. This is a pretty
And
good pitch. I mean,
they
this is
said
a
it was a strike.
strike.
Yeah.
Yeah. The funny part is if you compare it to CJ Stroud out there. Have you seen those
Mm,
videos?
mm-mm.
Oh man,
They said CJ Stroud looks like he could have went pro.
no.
No, it's
He
terrible.
he looks like he's never thrown a baseball a day in his life.
No, that's not what
Yes.
I. Okay.
I think
Uh,
you're
We'll
mistaken
drop the
for
link. I might be thinking of somebody else that had a
yeah.
successful first pitch
C-
recently.
Um, who did one recently? It might have been um, Lamar
Maybe I am
Jackson.
talking about Lamar.
But yeah,
It
no,
was somebody that they said I think they were a dual threat athlete,
yeah,
maybe
no.
not at the collegiate level, but
I'm pretty sure
CJ Stroud never
my
touched a baseball.
my 7-year-old son can throw a better ball than CJ Stroud, and he can't throw very well. Um, but no, so Kurt throughout the
He also
opening,
did the spike too. Did you see
he
that
also did the
the day
spike,
before?
and in Atlanta fashion, we lost both those
Both of those games. So they were calling them curse cousins. I was like,
games.
no, don't give him that already. He already plays for the Falcons, man.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens going down, especially with all this tampering stuff. Uh, it would be the most Atlanta thing ever, though, for us to lose a first round pick over this.
And the way that you tied it in with the money, that'd be just crazy. Like Super Bowl or bust at that level, right? You costing us. So now it's a first round pick and $180 million.
You know, Squid made a comment because someone was talking about how, oh, we might swap picks with the Minnesota as retribution. And Squid was like, "Well, if you were gonna do that, then it was basically a sign and trade."
Mm,
Um, but in reality, without the pick going to someone else, I don't know how that works. If they take away picks, does that just mean less people get drafted, or does someone else get them as uh compensatory picks? I don't know. Um,
yeah,
but
not quite sure. Yeah.
it's still the same thing, right? Like you gave up draft capital and the cheddar cheese to get them.
It wouldn't be the first time we lost a pick. You remember we lost one? They took a pick for us, piping in, piping in fan noise.
Yeah, it was like what
Oh,
a seven. We lost a compensatory pick or something.
yeah, yeah. It wasn't a huge
Mm.
deal. It was just a little bit of money and and that lower later pick.
Fingers crossed that it's just a late round pick, and it should be next year. So we got to make this draft count.
Got to make this one count. So tell me what you think about this one. Have you changed at all? Where you think we do with 8? Are you trading back? Like last chance to tell Terry Fontenot what you want to do, man.
Yeah, I mean, everyone says trade back, but in reality, like you have to have the right partner to be able to do that. So
Hmm.
it's a lot easier said than done. But if we had the opportunity to trade back, I think I'm going to trade back, and I'm going to go probably corner. Go get one of the elite corners in this draft, and then address the D line in round 2.
Who was it? Terry and Arnold. Is he
Yeah,
one of the top
he's viewed as the top corner.
cornerback? And then I know Latu has been coming up. His draft stock has been rising. It'd be nice to catch him on that back end, but who knows? If we do end up trading back, right? Maybe we can catch a cornerback and a defense end in the first round, just depending on who needs it. If it's somebody that's towards the back end, maybe we can do it. If we had to stay at 8, though, what are you doing at 8?
Uh, I don't know, man. I'm probably going either Jared Verse or Dallas
Dallas Turner.
Turner. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would be that egregious to take Terry and Arnold with that 8th pick either. So I mean, those 3 guys would be decent. We got to address the defense.
Gotta address it. Yeah, and I'm with you. One of those two positions, unless something falls into our laps. Someone falls into our laps, like
Marvin Harrison Jr.
Marvin Harrison Jr. Yes, if he happens to be there, because his draft stock is going down for whatever reason. I know he didn't do a whole lot of media time. He didn't do the combine, but he's a dog. Well, you know,
Did
he's
you
bucking the system. His dad was a pro. He knows what he's doing.
did you happen to catch the interview of Caleb Williams with what's your boy's name? Is it Dallas Clark that's got a little podcast?
Mm-mm.
Oh man.
Dallas Clark, the tight end, didn't he used to be a tight end
No, maybe. That
for
may
the
not that
Colts?
may
Is
not be
Colts is what I'm
who it
thinking of.
is. It's definitely Clark. Um, is his last name. But either way, uh, Caleb did a interview with him, and man, he sounds like such a head case.
Does he really?
Oh yeah, like so sure of himself, most arrogant, cocky person I've ever heard in my entire life.
Hmm. I generally don't have a problem with someone being a little bit arrogant. If you don't believe in yourself, who else will? Now, there are more constructive ways to display that, right? You don't have to be uh, now I was gonna say a dickhead, so I'm gonna say a little an asshole about it. Excuse my language, sure. What are they- Family friendly. Okay, brother, have you seen that sketch?
No.
Oh man, he is hilarious. Um, we will definitely drop a sketch video in the description. 100%.
But
But yeah.
yeah, he's I agree with you. Like you have to be as successful. You have to have a level of confidence in yourself. But
Mhm.
there is a fine line between being confident and just being a straight arrogant prick.
Like
And
what would do you remember a particular thing that he said that just was like what an ass, right?
um so like some of the things that stand out is he was talking about when he first got to Oklahoma and how it was a difficult time for him because Spencer Rattler he in his mind was better than, and had to sit behind him. He didn't
Mm.
win the job, and he was talking about like being at practice watching this dude and just knowing he sucked and
Oh wow.
uh that he was better. Um, it's stuff like that that just like I don't want that in my locker room.
Mm.
I mean, Spencer Rattler was coming out of high school as one of the top quarterback prospects in the nation. Uh, got, I guess, the best award in the Elite 11 um, competitions or whatever it is. And, he didn't
That's a
quite.
pre-collegiate competition.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the fact that he would just come in and just completely trash the dude is kind of wild to me. Now Spencer had his own struggles, and he didn't ever quite reach, I think, the potential that people thought he would in college. But that's your teammate. You gotta humble yourself and just grind, work, and when you get that opportunity, show the world, which is what Caleb did for some
Yeah.
to some degree. But you don't have to do it and then go publicly just trash the guy. Like,
Yeah, you don't have to down your teammates to boost yourself, for sure.
yeah, and like even in that interview, right? He had opportunity to talk about what it was like sitting behind the guy, and you didn't have to sit there and just like talk yourself up as like the greatest quarterback to ever play the game, which is basically what he said he is.
Mm. That's a bold claim. Maybe they got a little Garrett Cole, Trevor Bauer going
It
because their
kind of
rivalry was deeper than first string, second string.
it kind of reminds me of Anthony Davis saying pre-game too that he's the greatest defender in the league, and then
Mm.
getting cooked all night long by the Joker, and then by Jamal Murray for the game winner.
Yeah, yeah. What a game. I too fell asleep on it. That was. It felt like that game was on super late. It
They
was,
all
but
are. Those
No,
West
they
Coast
starting
games.
early. Like we were driving home from Sam's Club and there was a game on, right? I think
Oh
the
yeah,
Heat the Heat Boston was on already.
they're starting early with games, but those
Hmm.
West Coast games start at like 10 o'clock.
Yeah, 7 out there. Yeah, no, it's wild. And I tried. That one was good.
I
Right.
I enjoy, but you hit midnight, and I gotta call it deuces because I do have to work in the morning.
Yeah.
So
A lot of
eleven
times I
thirty.
try. My body won't allow it, right? It's like, no, you're going to sleep, buddy. Once I doze off that first time, when I come back, I'll just turn the TV off. Like, nah, I don't know what's going on. Click.
I can do 11:30, but you hit that midnight, and it starts to get to me the next day. So
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm a meaner person when I don't have sleep. Well, I have a lot shorter fuse with the kids. It's like, come on, just put your clothes on. You do this every day. I'm just tired. They're tired.
yeah, yeah, for sure. But yeah, he you got we gotta link that interview because it's quite interesting. It's definitely to me a red flag of I don't want this guy in my locker room. He seems kind of menacing, like you
Mm,
described Trevor Bauer.
yeah, yeah. I don't want a menace. I'll tell you that straight up.
And I know his dad, not that, his dad's on the field, but I don't want a player and their family member to be the spotlight in the news for the wrong reasons and run in their mouth, right? Like I want someone who's going to show up to work, do their job, be the best at their job, and entertain the fans, meet with the fans, be a community guy. You can have your own personal life, but like let's keep it out. Let's keep it to ourselves to some degree, right?
So you don't think that LeVar Ball could beat Michael Jordan 1-on-1 is what you're saying?
No, and I wouldn't want LeVar Ball linked to any squad that I root for.
I think Lamelo had to have gave him a little nudge, like, "Nah, dog, you're not doing that in my game," because you don't see him in Charlotte. Lonzo hasn't played in a couple of years just because of his injury. Hope he, makes a strong return. I like his game. And then Jello, um, I think he was in the D League for a while, but it was nice to see that LeVar backed off a little bit. What do you think about Trey Senior?
I mean, it's not my favorite, right? Like I understand, supporting your child and being their advocate, but some things just don't need to be said, right?
Yeah.
I think Lavar is an interesting case because I don't. Well, it is partially who he is, but I think a lot of it was put on to promote
Mm,
and get people talking, and it worked, right? Like, um, Baller Brands was a real thing. I don't know if it still
hmm
is, but it was a real thing, and it made money,
BBB, Big
right?
Baller Brand.
And so I think he did and said a lot just to generate publicity, right?
Mm.
No publicity is bad publicity, kind of theory. And so I think what we're seeing now is he's just kind of fallen back into the shadows a little bit because he doesn't need to, right? His Mello is balling, and he had two sons make it to the league, made good money. They're all wealthy enough.
They were
Je-
wealthy before, right?
yeah,
Like Melo was 16 with a Lambo.
yeah. Jello's well, he was 16 with a Lambo because of Big Baller Brands and all the media and publicity that Lavar generated for them.
Like they had that TV show. I don't know that Big Baller was as big a thing at that point because that was when Lonzo was coming into the league more than it was when they had that TV show, right? Where I
It,
think Jello was still in high school, Lamelo was still in high school, and in high school, not like the little jump that they did over in Europe with their dad, right? I don't know where that money came from. I wouldn't think it was Big Baller Brands.
I mean, they had launched Big Baller Brands. That was a Facebook. Uh, I think it was a Facebook funded, real low budget TV show. I watched it though.
Got it out the mud.
Yeah. Uh, but if I remember correctly, LeVar was fairly successful before,
Mm,
and they weren't like super wealthy, but they weren't poor by any stretch, right? Like they were
yeah, upper
well
middle
off.
class.
Yeah.
California upper middle class. That makes it different. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I like Trey Young's dad though. I think he's an advocate, and I think as Trey has aged, he has fallen back a little bit more. Right on those early days, he just was super vocal, and I ain't mad at it. Right, if I'm a dad, my son's in the league, it's gonna be hard for him to shut me up. Right, especially he's 20 years old, 21 years old. He's still a kid in my eyes. Right. Um, Not gonna let nobody just talk crazy about my son. It's not gonna happen, right? And I'm gonna be his biggest fan, his biggest advocate. So I'm not mad at it. But once he does put himself in a position to handle his own business, which I don't know that Trey wasn't doing that before, right? I think he's eased up a little bit. Like maybe he respected him as a man before, but he was just defending him because he had been in a similar situation. I don't think he went pro, but he was pretty nice in college, so maybe he had seen some of that pub before. But I like his dad. He got a lot of good things to say. They
Yeah,
should
I'm
put him in the front office, man. Fire Landry.
Landry don't know what's going on. Honestly, I don't even want to blame Landry cuz I don't know who's really pulling those puppet strings. But
Mm,
yeah, I mean if it was my son, I would definitely defend him if the situation came up, and I know Trey's dad has defended Trey to the
yeah, like the
media.
villain narrative and
Right.
the selfish narrative. Like that's.
But there
I'm
are
gonna
other
stand up for that.
things that he has said that I'm just like, it's unnecessary, right?
Mm,
Um, so with Caleb Williams' dad, like he was the one out saying that, if they didn't like where they were going to be drafted, that Caleb would return to college,
mm.
and just kind of trying to do the LeVar thing to some degree, and
Or the
control.
Eli thing,
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think what Eli did was right.
right?
Um, but he also did it somewhat quietly, right? Like
No,
he wasn't out just bashing the Giants. Or who was it? The
the Chargers.
Chargers.
He
Yeah,
said, "I'm not gonna play for him." That was big news, right? He wasn't.
but that was it,
Uh,
right? Like it was, I'm not going to play for those guys, and then that was all that was said.
Yeah,
Everything
but
else
it's news because he
was
didn't
talk.
actually play for him. Like they didn't. They. I don't know if they called his bluff. Well, they didn't because he didn't. He wasn't drafted by the Chargers. But to say that and actually have that your will fulfilled, right? It's not a small deal.
Very few people were in Eli's shoes where he had, a father who was a pro football player, a
Mm,
older brother that was, a current football player on path to the Hall of Fame, right? Like he had the ability to do that because he had the right chips, stacked in his corner.
yeah,
Like,
100%. But he made a stink. That's my point.
he did.
Right? He got out of a situation he didn't want to be in.
He also did it himself. He didn't have his.
Archie was a part of that.
I
hundred
mean,
percent.
I'm sure they all had some.
No, I'm talking about a
Well,
voice. I remember him having an interview about it. Right.
I'll have to check it out. We were pretty young during all
Hey,
that.
I know it. I know it in my mind. Hey, can you hear that?
No.
Okay. We have a robot vacuum. That thing just pulled up on me, bro. It's like right behind me. I'm gonna turn it off. Hold on. See how spry your boy is, man. You know,
Don't hurt yourself.
knee feeling a lot better, man. little shimmy. Yeah, so we'll see if old Caleb can walk that walk, man.
Yeah, we will.
He's for sure number one, right? That's the only pick that we know is pretty much a lock.
Yeah, I'm still hearing smoke about the potential of the Falcons going with a QB at 8.
Mm,
I don't know if it's them just trying to generate interest, like we talked about either last week or the week before, just trying to generate some
some
noise.
gamesmanship.
But
You call it red herring, right?
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I don't know what GM would legitimately think that we're gonna go quarterback at 8.
Yeah, it's a hard sell until
Yeah,
we do
maybe
it. Nah, but
yeah,
I hope we don't.
that would be the most Falcon thing to do.
Yeah, we get like JJ McCarthy, not even like one of the better ones.
So there was a comparison done by Brooks Austin
Mm-hmm.
of JJ McCarthy and who was Stetson Bennett,
Mm.
and they were
Yeah,
talking.
boy.
Yeah. So apparently JJ McCarthy um didn't throw more than like 20 passes in more than like 3 games his entire college career as a starter.
Really?
And so you start breaking down him statistically, and it's like, I don't know that this is really going to translate, right? He's going to have to drop back and um, throw the ball. There's not a quarterback except for I think maybe one or two teams where the quarterback did not average more than 30 um, attempts per
Throws again?
game. And I think I know one of the teams was Tennessee.
Baltimore's got to be on there.
I think it was
I wouldn't.
Baltimore and Tennessee.
Hmm.
So, you know, I don't know. JJ McCarthy to me is just not a play at all.
Hmm.
Like, he would not even be on my radar.
But he's on a lot of people's radar, or maybe that's talk too, right? We'll see. We'll see when we're out there at the bench tomorrow, man. We're gonna take a photo
Yeah.
on site at the draft remotely.
um yeah, so JJ might be on some GM's radars, but so was, Zach Wilson and some of these other guys that were complete bums. So
What if Zach Wilson goes to the Broncos and shows out, man?
he won't.
He won't. But what if he does?
Good for him. I mean, he'll be closer to home, I guess, out there in Utah.
You know, GMs, they get a lot of flack for the decisions that they make, but it comes down to the coach too, right? Who has to develop the players? The coach. Who has to mentor the players? The coach. The player has to do all of the work, but they need guidance. That's what coaches are. They're guides. He has a great defense, man, but they might need to relegate that guy to defense coordinator if Jack Wilson goes out there and just balls out.
Maybe. I think that some of it could be just I want to say the owner and their expectations and just
Yeah.
the pressure of the pick, right? We've had the conversations, and I think it's going to be true with whoever we draft at 8 or in the first round to some extent. But there's a lot of pressure, especially at that position, that the
Hmm.
higher you're picked, you're expected to come in and perform, and more fail than succeed.
Yeah.
And the sample sizes that we have, while they're limited, the guys that get the freedom and the luxury to come in, sit for a couple years behind somebody,
Hmm.
tend to do a lot better when given that opportunity.
I saw that situation given a name for the first time. They called it a red shirt rookie, which made a lot of sense. So yeah, now I'm a fan of that. I talked about that before. I love to even in this draft. I wouldn't want to use 8 because we have other needs if we want to compete now. But um, drafting a quarterback that could learn from Kirk Cousins or holding on to Desmond Ritter, right? For all the bad that he did, he had some good things. I still wish I could have seen what that situation would have played itself into, like him sitting behind Kirk Cousins for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty shocked that they decided to go with Tyler, especially
Hmm.
because the contract amount, right? Like
Yeah.
Dez was pretty cheap, but there's this scenario that's been kind of like playing in my head, like what if? And so I want to shoot it out to you. So
Okay.
you're Terry Fontenot. You're sitting there evaluating this draft. You see you got Kirk Cousins, right? You've basically um, given him 2 years, right? Like you've guaranteed him
Yeah.
2 years.
It's a lot.
He's coming. He's what? What did we say? He's 36, and
Hmm.
he's coming off an Achilles injury. Uh, you've got high optimism, but you don't really know exactly what you're going to get from him, and you're staring at potential punishment from the league in losing draft picks in your next year.
Mm.
How does that factor into your decision now to go out and try and get a quarterback to sit? Because you may not have the luxury next year of getting a guy because you may not have that pick.
Yeah. It definitely has to factor in. I don't know that I change my move though, because him being here, the amount of money that we're paying him, I do think the expectation is that we make some noise, right? And there are some pieces that we need in order to do that. We don't have money to sign those pieces, so we gotta draft them, and we have to draft very well. I don't think that we can, not to say waste, but use a pick on a quarterback with the needs that we have, unless we want, just some regular degular down in the third or fourth round.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple names that would be interesting to throw flyers at. Like Spencer Rattler is one of those
I heard he was
names.
on the draft board.
Um, but to take a step back for a second, you know, the the coach and the GM and just like the general feeling coming from the organization out of last year was we were a quarterback away, right?
Hmm.
Now we have a couple guys that have come and left, but we've made a couple moves this offseason to kind of plug some of those holes. You still have Calais Campbell out there who's not signed that you have the potential to bring back. Now, if you truly believe you are a quarterback away and you got that guy, then do you really have or feel the pressure to go out and draft any particular position, right? Or do you feel the freedom to completely do best available whatever you have on your board, even if that's a quarterback?
Terry Fontenot actually he spoke about that in his draft press conference, and he was saying something to the effect of, if you got one of those guys that are there, and you also have an unfulfilled need, my mindset is that we're gonna go for the guy because you don't want to look down the road a year, 2 years, and see this guy and be like, oh man, we could have had him. So if it feels like he aligns with that. Me personally, I think it's similar, but he has to be one of them dudes, right? Like a Marvin Harrison Jr. Like if he falls to us, yeah, you draft him. But I'm not gonna. None of the quarterbacks, odds are, they're not gonna be there when we draft. JJ McCarthy, we talked about it. We're not really interested. He has an outside chance to be there, and then we wouldn't want to reach for Michael Penix with the eighth. I was just looking at the draft board from the Falcoholics. Shout out to Falcoholics; they do some good content. It has Spencer Strattler as our third round pick.
Spencer Rattler, yeah.
Or yeah, Spencer
Yeah.
Rattler. Who's Strattler? Is that a real person? William
Not someone
Shatner.
I know. Yeah.
They had Dallas Turner and then Spencer Rattler, and then they had us getting one of the McCaffrey boys too,
Mm. His younger brother, wide
wide
receiver, right?
receiver.
Yeah.
Yeah, from Rice.
But yeah, I kind of want to wrap that discussion up cuz we're coming up on getting close to our hour mark that we're trying to hit. So,
Trying to
I
cut it down for y'all, man, just a
yeah,
little bit.
we're trying to make it digestible for you, man. It's hard to do. Uh but that being said, you're right. Like you're talking about JJ McCarthy, Bo Nix, and um, Michael Penix are the three that are potentially there at 8. And, I don't view those as, value picks at 8. So I actually
Yeah,
only would be interested in one of those guys, and it's Michael Penix.
right.
And I would want him, later in the draft. So now that being said, the last time we drafted a player, I believe at 8, uh, at the QB position was none other than Mr. Matty Ice, who
Matty
announced
Ice.
his retirement this week. How you feeling about that?
Um, I almost said long overdue. Right? No, but he had to get his money. Right? They, I don't like the way that his career ended. Um, I like the way it's finished now because he's back home. We've spoken on this. I think Matt Ryan is the greatest Falcon of all times. Um, I hope we have someone who out achieves him because that means that we got that Super Bowl, right? But as it stands right now, I've always been a big Matt Ryan fan, but as it stands right now, he's the greatest Falcon of all time. I'm glad we did that draft. I remember during that draft, I was one of the guys that was like, "No, you gotta get Pariah Jerry," right? And what a mistake that would have been, right? So I appreciated his letter to the fan. He talked about how he learned from Dan, how to learn, how he learned to lead from Dan and Mike Smith, and then he talked about some of his teammates from Tony Gonzalez to Roddy White to Julio Jones. Um, he didn't talk about. I thought Devontae Freeman. I mean, it was only 3 minutes, right? So maybe he talked about that in his presser because he did. It does look like he had a 30-minute long presser as opposed to a 3-minute long farewell. But it was touching, man. I didn't cry, but that's my quarterback. You know, that's my quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, he was a staple in this city for many years, like what, 14 years, 13 years.
Hmm. Yeah,
I was a little sad how it ended for him. I was one of the ones that expected him to go to Indy and
tear it up.
have great success behind a good O line and great running back, but it just didn't pan out that way for him. He actually talked about how difficult that season was for him. That his wife was pregnant and they were just dealing with life, and sometimes life can be hard,
Yeah.
and so the transition for him wasn't really a smooth one. And so I thought that was really interesting to kind of peel back the curtain a little bit on, how that, season went for him.
Or even truly desired. He didn't want to go. I mean, he kind of saw the writing on the wall. I think what we did as far as trying to sign Deshaun Watson, I'm not mad at it, but for him, I guess it was more of a shock, right? He didn't, maybe he wasn't included in those conversations, which for what he's done for the organization, he definitely should have been.
I
Uh,
I mean, he had to be included to some degree because he agreed to take a pay cut in order for the trade to go. Um, but
but at that point, when he's doing that, it feels like it's 1 foot out the door,
yeah,
right?
yeah, it is for sure. And I honestly don't think he had to go. I think that unfortunately, we had a little bit of stuff on our face after everything fell through, and I think it wasn't coming from Matt. I don't know this to be fact, but this is my gut feeling. Is it wasn't coming from Matt that he wanted to be out because of the way things transpired. I think franchise was embarrassed and they felt like they had to move on because of what they had done in the lead up. So
I could see it being him. You couldn't see it being him. I would be a little jaded.
yeah,
Like
for
man,
sure.
draft somebody. Draft Justin Fields. I'll mentor the kid. Don't uh try to pay the toppest of dollar. Like I was the richest quarterback for a while. I'm still here, and we have other needs. You saw what just happened to me this season, right? Just being abused behind the line. You don't think there's other corrections that can be made with that money? I would be a little. I feel a little slighted.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he felt it, but I don't feel like he's one to go demand a trade because of it, right?
Yeah, no, that wasn't the guy that I met at Chipotle for sure. He's not.
Yeah, he was ordering too good of food to be that guy.
Yeah, man. No, did I tell you that story how I kind of blew up the spot, right? Everyone was leaving him alone. He was really quiet, and I didn't see him until I had already ordered, right? So I got my food and I was ordering to go, and I'm walking out, and he's in line. Like this massive dude. He's not no small guy. Matt Ryan's what, 6'6", 6'7"?
6'5".
Nah, I'm 6'4", so he's got to be 6'6", 6'7". Um, very tall guy, stands out. And he's Matt Ryan, right? He's the face. It's one of the iconic sports athletes or athletes, sports athletes. One of the iconic athletes that have represented the city of Atlanta, and he's there in line. And I'm like, yo, and I'm with a friend of mine. We were at lunch, and she was like, yeah, hey, that Matt Ryan? I was like, man, that is Matt Ryan. And of course, I walk up to him like, Matt Ryan, what's up, man? And I dap him up. And I was like, can we take a picture? And he's like, yeah, we can take a picture. I took a picture, and then they just mobbed him. And I was like, all right, man, have a good day. Sorry, I broke the touch barrier, and everybody saw it.
Yeah. So you broke the ice, pun
Mhm.
intended, on
Yeah.
a question that we had kind of talked about reviewing offline, and that is, who is the greatest sports icon in Atlanta sports history? And I've been thinking about this a little bit here and there since kind of bringing it up to you as a potential topic. And, what better time than now to talk about it as one of the greatest um, bids farewell to a career. Uh, and it's hard, man. It's a hard decision to make. So I'm going to let you give a top three.
Okay, that's fair. Before I give mine, where is Matt Ryan? Would you say? And if you just say like top, I think it's obvious he's top 10, but is he top 5?
I think he's top five.
Hmm, that's
You want
interesting.
you want me to start with some of mine? Like, I think
Yeah,
there's a few obvious people. Like, one of them is Hammer and Hank, and
yeah.
it's gonna be hard not to put him number one or 1A. The other one comes from the same organization,
Mm,
and that's Chipper Jones.
Big Chip Daddy. That's
Yeah. I
what we
mean,
used to call him. Yeah,
Larry. I call him Larry
yeah.
because we know each other. We're on a first name basis.
Mm,
Um, and then the other one, from the hard court, Dominique Wilkins.
yeah.
And then, you got Matt Ryan and Deion Sanders and Michael Vick. And I think that rounds out what? Top six? Did I give six? Let's
I
see.
think you gave
Uh Hank, Chipper,
Chipper,
Dominique, Dion,
Matt Ryan,
and
Michael Vick, and Dion. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
so
6.
six.
So who's your one?
I think it's gotta be 1A, 1B. Hank Aaron and Chipper Jones.
Okay. My one is Hank Aaron. Um, he's number one,
From
right?
what from what they did for the sport, Hank Aaron is by far number one.
Hmm.
But because of the era that we grew up, like it's hard for me not to throw Chipper Jones.
Even in when I went to games, not a whole lot that I remember, but I got pictures when I was like 8, 9 at Fulton County Stadium before Turner Field. But I remember even at Turner Field, they left in the blue lot. You may remember this. They left the piece of gate up where he hit 755, right? And it was the gate and they had the number and the statue was back there. It was just this big random spot in the middle of the parking lot, right? Because they had tore down the stadium, but they left that piece up. And I just remember seeing that over and over as a kid. And no one's touched it.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone who's done more for baseball than Hank Aaron. Point blank.
Right. But even Atlanta, right? That iconic lowercase baby blue A, right? He made that cool. The throwbacks where that came back out. That's because of Hank Aaron. Um,
I mean, he held the most prestigious, most legendary record in all of baseball, right? Like
yeah,
he was the home run king, Chicks dig the long ball, you know.
chicks dig the long ball.
It's just one of those things, right? Like it's that sex appeal of that home run champion.
Yeah, but it's an Atlanta record. My second one, I do think Chipper is top five, but my second one is Michael Vick.
Mm.
Um, the Michael Vick experience changed the city of Atlanta. It changed the NFL. It changed the national media. Right, everyone wanted to see what Michael Vick was gonna do next. I saw a clip from his. I don't know if it's a 30 for 30 or behind the laces, whatever whatever the name of these things are these days. But he was talking about how Dan Reeves during the game against the Vikings, Dan Reeves had told him the coverage. He's like, "Hey, listen, if they line up in that, they're gonna be man." And Vic said, "Okay, well, if they're man, I'm taking off." And that is the iconic play. We shared the link of the Justin Fields run, like side by side with that run where Vic had the Vikings players run into each other before he sprinted into the end zone. He talked about that play, and man, how iconic was that play. Then he went on to beat the Packers in Lambeau for the first time ever, right? They hadn't lost a playoff game in Lambeau before. Michael Vick went up there and did that. Um, cover of Madden, one of the most dominant Madden athletes of all time, and it was just nice to see that Falcon on the cover of. I'm holding it low, but that Falcon on the cover of the Madden game, right? I hadn't seen that before, so he's my number two. Um,
What about number 3?
number three. See, that's where it gets.
Who's in the
Chipper
conversation?
wasn't my favorite Brave. He was definitely up there, but I had A Jones on the back of my jersey, right? I think he's been slighted of late. This not being a Hall of Famer is nuts, but Andrew Jones, I can't put him three though. Prime, I think is definitely top five, but that was an era of Falcons football where I was just kind of a kid. I had my Falcons gear, but I wasn't watching the game like that. I wasn't as big of a fan or follower.
I think what puts Prime in the conversation is the dual sport aspect of it, right? Like,
Yeah,
Brian Jordan, he did the same thing, but
Brian Jordan.
he
That's
wasn't,
good.
yeah, he just wasn't the peak of both sports, right?
Yeah. The other reason with Dion that I feel like I might not put him in the top five is because he was a dog for two other teams. Everywhere that Dion played in the NFL, he was very good. He started with us, and the lights and the shine that were around the Falcons at that time, from what I hear, right? I didn't get to go club with uh man, who were you talking about? Deion Sanders, right? But the glitz and glam that surrounded him and the Falcons at that time was a thing. But then he went to San Francisco and killed it. He was in Dallas and killed it. He had very good years at both of those other locations. So it's hard for me to say Atlanta icon. He is for sure, but I want to put others that just have been in the city
There's
alone
there's not many.
ahead of him. Yeah,
There's not
I
many that
mean,
played their full career here. I mean, Chipper Jones played his full career in Atlanta, but Vic did not. Uh,
he didn't. Yeah,
Hank Aaron didn't. Uh,
well, not full career, but like the best years of their career. And I will agree. Like Vic had 1 or 2 years outside of Atlanta when he was in Philly that were stellar years. But I would say the majority of Vic's influence on the game, what he did for football and what he did for the city he was playing for, was in Atlanta.
yeah, I mean,
Dion, he I think he still rocks with Jerry Jones from time to time.
I think for me, like I said, with Dion, it's the two sports and the fact that like he he came out his coming out party uh
Was
in the
crazy.
in the NFL was in Atlanta, right? Like we drafted
Hmm.
him, we brought him into the league. So
Dominique Wilkins, I say, is three. He also was traded towards the end of his career, um, but the man, he's one of the only ones that has a statue in the city, right? Um,
you know,
yeah, I gotta put Nick as three.
one of them I didn't mention, but you talk about statues in the city. You know, Bobby Cox.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Now, I gotta slight him too, because although that was one of the best, I can't call him a dynasty because we only won one team, one championship, right? But that was one of the best put together teams of that decade or however long they went, right? But to come out of that with one championship, it's like, now that's not all on Bobby, but it is attached to him. Um, yeah, I'm comfortable with that three. Hank Aaron, Michael Vick, Dominic Wilkins. If I close out the five, I do think I had to put probably Chipper. Chipper's in that five. Hmm. It's not that many. Like think about this if
Where's Matty Ice then for you?
oh yeah, okay, there you go. He's definitely top five. That's who would close out the five. He'd actually be four for me. He's above Chipper.
Gotcha.
So Hammer and Hank, Michael Vick. Um, do I even want to put Matt Ryan might be up there? Nah, just that Vic experience, man. That was just something to see, right? And Matt Ryan, he is my favorite quarterback, but as far as Atlanta sports icon, I gotta go. Hammer and Hank, Dion, or oh, messing my order up. Hammer and Hank, Michael Vick, Dominique Wilkins, Matt Ryan. Yeah, and I guess Chipper Jones. We're forgetting somebody, man.
Not
Or
in
is
our
it? It's
lifetime.
just not that many, huh?
Yeah.
Like, what happens if Trey Young is traded? Because he could eventually, if Trey fulfills the destiny that I have set for him, right? He will he will easily make this list, at least the top five, right? If he wins a championship or an MVP, and I think he has the potential to do that with the right pieces around him, right? If Trey has a season where he averages 27 and 12 and we make the playoffs in the top four position and we go on to have success in the playoffs, I think he would be in the conversation, right? Luca's not a one seed, but he's in the conversation right now, deservingly. But if he's gone, Right, that we have no one that's coming up. We got Ronald.
Well,
Oh, you know
that's
who
what I
should
was
be
gonna
up there?
say.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was gonna
Ronald
say
is there.
there's a couple people that I think are potentially going to make that list at, after their career, right? Ronald Acuna Jr. Um, you mentioned
Joseph Martinez. He's top
just
10.
not for me.
What?
I don't know actually because we said there's not that many people, but I think of like Grady Jarrett, potentially being up there.
Grady.
Um,
What about Julio?
oh, that was the other one, Julio Jones. I just the way his career ended in Atlanta is hard, and he was such a quiet dude that it's hard to
The
really.
only words that he spoke were just slander of the organization. Is
Yeah,
how I took that. Right? You never said anything until the end. It was like, nah, man, I don't rock with them guys. Like, how? What? Come on, man. I got your jersey on my back, dog. Like, I support you. You don't owe me anything, but you ain't got to dog me on your way out. That was wild.
yeah. It's sad because like he was legit my favorite Falcon. Um,
Mm.
I really like Tony Gonzalez. He was my favorite player, but like to me, we got him at the end of his career. Too
We
much
got some
so
really good years out of him,
we
though.
did. But I still think like Kansas City is what I think of for Tony Gonzalez. It'll be
Mm.
interesting. He's already made the Hall, right?
I think he's up for it this year. If he did, he made it last year, but I don't think he's in there yet.
So I don't know in football. I know in baseball they do their statue with a hat, and the player can choose what team they want to be represented. I wonder what he'll choose, or what he chose for his Hall of Fame bust. But yeah, man, we are
Oh yeah, 19. Yeah, he's been in for a while. Yeah,
we have come up on that hour mark. I think we may be a little bit over it. I appreciate everyone who's stuck with us.
absolutely.
Yeah, so leave a comment in the comments. I want to know what your top 5 uh Atlanta sports icons are. Tell us what you think, who you put number 1, and if you agree or disagree with our lists. Uh, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, review, tell a friend. You know, we
Yeah, I'm
appreciate
definitely
all the.
curious of who we left off. I want to know who we left off in the comments, so I can ask for anything specifically. Who did we leave off the Atlanta sports icons list? But now we definitely appreciate you. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you on the flip.
Yeah, next week we'll have draft talk to actually officially talk about. So don't miss.
Don't miss. Don't miss. It's gonna be a lot of Braves after that. All right, my brother.
All right,
I'll
man.
let you. Yep.
Peace.